Elon Musk even just tweeted out that this has cause for concern. And whether that means anything to you or not, he did. You know, sometimes we get news from the media way too late. And other times, less often, we get news when it's happening, breaking. And less times than not, we get news early. Like, we can stop it. We can stop it before it happens. Tucker Carlson, in this case, has just put out on his tuckercarlson.com page the motivation behind a bill that's going to the Senate, in the Senate right now as I'm speaking, that they're voting on, that would tie Donald Trump's hands to the Ukraine. It will make us, Americans, pay for the Ukraine war in 24 and 25. I'm going to play this clip for you and give you a moment to reflect on what's going on as Tucker Carlson has a interview with the Ohio State Senator regarding what they're doing right now in the Senate, voting on tonight, that would tie Donald Trump's hands to Ukraine and continue the war, whether we liked it or not. Check it out. Let me know what you think.
And yet, the United States Senate proposed, under Mitch McConnell, a plan to send another $60 billion to Ukraine. Well, imagine the surprise of all rational people around the world to wake up this morning and discover this could actually happen. And so with that in mind, we thought it'd be worth talking to one of the very few Republican senators who's bothered to make the counter case. And that would be J.D. Vance of Ohio, who joins us now from the United States. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. If you wouldn't mind telling us where this legislation is right now, what you expect to happen, and what you think should happen.
Yeah, Tucker, so there are two big things that will happen here. So tonight we will clear a major procedural vote, or we won't. So this is really the best opportunity tonight to kill this legislation. Encourage everybody to do everything that they can, contact everyone they can to ensure that we actually do kill the legislation. It is very close. The Democrats have banded together with 17 Republicans. We only need 8 of those Republicans to flip their vote to kill this thing. And I think that we'll get at least one who will, in fact, flip their vote. So that's where it sits in the Senate. The second thing, and frankly, the best opportunity we have to kill this, is in the House. And that's part of what I'm trying to do, is notify people about how bad this legislation is, so that after it clears the Senate, if it does, then it goes to the House, and the House has a real opportunity to at least make it better, but hopefully kill it. And I want to say just a couple of things here, Tucker, that are extremely important to know about this legislation. Number one is that it sends $61 billion to Ukraine to fund, as you said, a hopeless war in Eastern Europe. It will decimate the Ukrainian population even more than it's already been decimated. So it's a terrible, terrible piece of legislation on the policy. The second thing I want to say, Tucker, though, is that it doesn't just fund Ukraine in 2024. And this is the most important point. It actually funds Ukraine in 25 and 26. Now, what's the problem with that? Say, for example, that we have a new president in 2025. That president would be handcuffed by the promises that we are making in law to Ukraine today. If you go back to 2019, Tucker, to try to give you a sense of why this matters. In 2019, the U.S. House impeached then President Donald Trump on the theory that they had appropriated money to Ukraine, and Donald Trump refused to send it to Ukraine. So if Trump is elected president again and become president on January of 2025, he will conduct diplomacy. And if that diplomacy does not include sending additional billions to Ukraine, there is a theoretical argument, a predicate, if you will, for impeaching Donald Trump because they have tried to tie his hands. And the final point I'll make on this, Tucker, is that the Washington Post has already said, based on leaks from inside the intel community, the purpose of this legislation is to tie a future President Trump's hands. We're not just sending billions to Ukraine in 2024. We're trying to make it impossible for the next president to conduct diplomacy on his terms. It's anti-democratic, and it will lead to endless war all over the world.
So the political calculation behind this seems incredibly dark. So does the humanitarian effect. I noticed that no one on Capitol Hill seems interested in finding out how many have died in this war. Reliable estimates in the area, these are not partisan, are that about 400,000 Ukrainians have died. That's about as many Americans as died in the entire Second World War over the entire duration. And it's, of course, a much smaller country. So how do senators, Republican senators, get away with saying we're doing this on behalf of the Ukrainian people, on behalf of democracy, when it's destroying an entire generation and it's not a democracy? Like, what's the thinking here?
Well, Tucker, they bought into the propaganda that what is in the best interest of Ukraine is to prolong this war. And so Zelensky comes to Washington. He's tougher than a lot of them are. And I think they get, a little bit of excitement from that. And Zelensky tells them a story that his war is in the best interest of the whole of Ukraine. Now, never mind that there are people within Ukraine protesting the draft. Never mind that the average age of a soldier there is pushing 45 years old. And never mind that the 650,000 wealthiest Ukrainians left the country at the beginning of the war. They didn't stay and fight. So the idea that this is unanimously supported by the Ukrainian population is, of course, preposterous and absurd. No one believes it. But here's the really crazy, and I think ultimately the very cynical thing that's going on, Tucker, is that everyone knows that this war will lead to the destruction of Ukraine. I've had conversations with Democratic colleagues where they get this sort of dark look in their eyes, and they say effectively that they want to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian drop of blood. I think if you really ask these guys, they recognize that this is not in the best interest of Ukraine. This is fundamentally in the interest of military contractors and people who think that America's most pressing challenge is to defeat the Russians. Of course, that's not a preoccupation that I share. I don't think Russia should have invaded, Tucker, but I also think that we got to be much more focused on more pressing problems like the demographic collapse of the United States, like the open borders, and like what's going on in East Asia. So it's a massive campaign, Tucker, to distract people from the real problems in the world and the real problems that exist in this country.
And underlying it all, as you just said, is an impulse that's indefensible and I think deeply immoral.
So he's not saying not only is this going to tie the president's hands and not allow him to do his job and save the taxpayers' money for a war that cannot be won in Ukraine. It's almost mathematically impossible for Ukraine to win this war. So we're just throwing money in a bag with holes right now. But also, if you caught to notice this, and I stand corrected, I said it goes on till the money keeps going to them until 2025, when it actually goes to Ukraine until 2026. It gives grounds for the Democratic Party. It's a plan, a plot to have an open door to impeach President Donald Trump. They're sneaky, they're tricky. And I don't know what the world is thinking out there, or even if people don't even know what's going on. I just found out about it myself from Tucker Carlson. And we're finding out a lot of stuff from Tucker Carlson. Lately, it seems like he's better on his own than he was with Fox. To me, it sounds like a hoax. Like they already have it in. They might even know Donald Trump is going to win. They know he's going to win. So we tie his hands and we make him do things. It sounds very unconstitutional. It sounds very un-American to me that they're even doing this, that they're even considering it. But Rhino Mitch McConnell, we all know, is just part of the system. But hopefully it doesn't happen, but it looks like they've got the votes to do it. Another 60 billion, what the hey, right? Pick up the check. America, pick up this Bidenomics and Rhino Republican check. Go on his website, tuckercarlson.com. You can get a lot of this information that the media just won't show you, and you can get it early. And that's kind of nice to have in this day and age. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.